My wife cheated on me with her boss, then suddenly claimed I plotted to steal $300, $0 from our joint account. Everything I ever worked for is now in litigation, and I just found out she's been secretly selling off our house and my grandfather's inheritance behind my back. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. It all started with a gut feeling that something was off, but I didn't want to believe it. My wife, Emily, had always been a little bitchy, but I chalked it up to stress or just her personality. We'd been together for 8 years, married for 5, and I thought I knew her inside out. She's the type who always has a snarky comment ready, loves to boss people around, and can be pretty manipulative when she wants something. Still, I never suspected that she'd do something so reckless, so outright cruel. It all fell apart in a matter of days. It started with little things, her staying late at work more often, her phone always on silent, her brushing off my questions with a sarcastic comment or a fake laugh. I noticed that her behavior changed after she got a new boss, a guy named Mark. She'd come home smelling like perfume I didn't recognize, and her excuses were as flimsy as ever. She'd say she was working late, that Mark was just a colleague, that I was overreacting. But I could tell there was something she wasn't telling me. Then I found the messages. At first, it was just a glance at her phone when she left it unattended. I saw the texts, flirty, suggestive, sometimes downright explicit. I saw her calling Mark late at night, sometimes even during our supposed date nights. I was furious, but I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I started digging, going through her emails, her social media accounts, even her hidden apps. That's when I found the photos, naked pictures of her with Mark, taken in some hotel room, and they weren't just casual. They were for his eyes only, and they proved everything I suspected. The worst part, she'd been lying to my face all along. She told me she was working late, that she didn't want to jeopardize her career, that it was just a stupid flirtation, but I knew better now. She'd been sneaking around behind my back for months, maybe longer. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, was screwing her boss and lying to me every step of the way. I felt sick, like I'd been punched in the stomach repeatedly. I decided I had to confront her. I waited until she came home from work, my heart pounding in my chest. When she walked in, I was already holding her phone, the screen flickering with the latest messages from Mark. Her face went pale and she started to stammer, denying everything, calling me paranoid, saying I was imagining things. She told me Mark was just a friend, that I was overreacting, that I was insecure. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I'd seen enough. This wasn't some innocent flirtation, this was real, and it was over my line. I was furious, so furious I could barely speak. I told her I knew everything. Her eyes flickered with panic, then she started crying, saying she didn't mean for it to go this far, that it was just sex, that Mark was her boss, and she was tired of pretending to be happy with me. She claimed she loved me, that she'd never meant to hurt me, but her words sounded hollow. I could see the truth in her eyes, the truth I'd uncovered with my own eyes. She'd betrayed me, and I didn't know if I could ever forgive her. That night I stayed awake, replaying everything in my head. I felt a deep, gnawing sadness mixed with anger. I'd worked so hard to build a life with her, to make something solid out of what we had. Now it all felt like a house of cards ready to collapse. I thought about the money, the house, the inheritance from my grandfather, things I'd poured myself into. And now I had no idea what was real anymore. I looked at her, crying and begging for forgiveness, and I realized that I was at a crossroads. I didn't want to be with someone who could betray me so completely, but I also didn't want to just walk away without a fight. In the following days, everything changed. She started accusing me of plotting to steal money from our joint account, $300, she claimed I was trying to take. She spun this story like she was the victim, saying I was a liar and a thief. I couldn't believe her. She'd spent months selling off parts of our house, secretly cashing in on my grandfather's inheritance, all behind my back. I found out because I started checking our finances more closely, and I saw the transfers, the withdrawals, the new accounts she'd opened without telling me. It was like she was trying to erase me from everything we'd built together. I felt like I'd been hit again, this time by a tidal wave of betrayal that I couldn't escape. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone cold and calculating. I was angry, yes, but mostly hurt. How could she do this to me? To us? I had to think fast. I knew I couldn't let her keep doing this, couldn't let her get away with destroying what little stability I had left. I started planning my revenge, not in some petty way, but in a way that would make her regret everything she'd done. I wasn't going to be a victim here. I was going to fight back, take control of what she was trying to ruin. And so I began to gather evidence to prepare for a fight that I knew would be ugly. I reached out to a lawyer, started documenting everything, from her secret sales of our property to her attempts to frame me financially. I knew that once I had the proof, I'd expose her for who she really was. I didn't want her to get away with it. I wanted her to pay for the lies, the betrayal, the destruction she'd caused. The only thing I could do now was hold on to what was left of my dignity and fight back with everything I had. I never thought I'd get to the point where I'd be sitting here, writing all this down. But after everything that's happened, I realize I need to get it out, even if just to make sense of it all. The more I dug into her financials, the clearer it became that Emily had been planning this for a while. She'd been secretly selling off pieces of our house, our home, the place I thought was our sanctuary, and even worse, she'd been siphoning money from the inheritance I'd received from my grandfather. That inheritance wasn't just some cash sitting around. It was meant to secure my future, to give me a fallback if things went south. Now, I saw that she'd been quietly transferring chunks of it into accounts I didn't even know about. It all started with little things, small withdrawals here and there, odd transfers that I initially thought were just normal expenses. But then I started noticing patterns. Large sums disappearing and no explanation from her. I got suspicious when I saw a transfer to a private account she opened under a fake name. I asked her about it, and the bitch just shrugged, acting like I was overreacting. She told me it was just some savings account she was using for a secret project, but I knew better. I knew she was selling off the house, chunk by chunk, and quietly cashing in on everything I'd worked my ass off for. I confronted her again, this time more forcefully. I threw the evidence on the table: bank statements, transfer records, receipts from the sale of our furniture and parts of the house. Her face twisted into this nasty sneer, like she was trying to act innocent but failing miserably. She insisted she was just taking care of herself, that everything was for our future, and that I was just being paranoid. She spun this whole story about how I was controlling, how I didn't trust her. That's when I lost it. I told her I knew she'd been lying, selling our house behind my back, and that I'd had enough. She started crying big crocodile tears and told me I was ruining everything, that I was the one who was crazy, that I'd been plotting to steal from her all along. She said she only did what she had to do because I was so possessive and insecure. But I knew her better than that. I knew her manipulative ways. She'd always been the type to twist things around to make herself look like the victim. That was her game: lie, deny, accuse, and somehow make herself the innocent party. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I felt an incredible mix of rage and heartbreak. Rage because she destroyed everything we built, and heartbreak because I loved her once. I thought she loved me too, but now I see she was just using me, manipulating me into thinking we had a future. That's the worst part, feeling like I was blind all along. I was so wrapped up in trying to make everything work to keep her happy that I didn't see the signs. And now I was left with a pile of lies, a mountain of betrayal, and a sinking feeling that I might lose everything. The house. It's not ours anymore. She's been secretly selling off parts of it, claiming she upgrading or doing renovations, but I found out she's just flipping the property, cashing out without my knowledge or consent. She's been doing the same with the inheritance, cashing out chunks, transferring money into accounts she controls alone. I saw it all with my own eyes. I felt sick. How could she do this? How could she be so heartless? I thought she loved me, but she was just playing a game, using me, lying to my face, and secretly taking everything I ever worked for. I started feeling like I was losing my mind. My life was unraveling so fast I could keep up. I was angry at her, obviously, but also scared. Scared of losing everything, my home, my inheritance, my future. I kept asking myself how I let it get this bad, how I missed the signs. But the truth is, I was blinded by love, by hope that she'd change, that she'd come clean. Instead, she was just waiting for the right moment to take everything from me. Now I'm at a crossroads. I've got the evidence and I've contacted a lawyer. I don't want her to get away with this. I want her to face the consequences of what she's done. But I also know that no matter what happens legally, I'll never get back the trust I lost. I've been betrayed in ways I never thought possible. It's like finding out your whole life was a lie, your marriage, your home, your future. I don't know how to move forward from this, but I do know one thing. I'm not going to let her destroy me completely. I've got to fight for what's mine, for what's left of my dignity. In the end, I realize this isn't just about the money or the house. It's about respect, respect that she threw away when she cheated, lied, and betrayed me. I thought I knew her, but I was wrong. And now I've got to rebuild from the ground up. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I can't stay in this toxic mess forever. I'll fight for what's right, for what I deserve. And I hope anyone reading this who's been through something similar knows they're not alone. It hurts, it's messy, but somehow you find a way to move on. After I gathered enough evidence and confronted Emily with everything, things spiraled even further out of control. The moment I laid out the bank statements, the receipts from her secret sales, and the transfer records, her face turned ghostly pale. She tried to deny everything at first, calling me paranoid, accusing me of spying on her, saying I was just jealous or insecure. She even had the nerve to say I was trying to sabotage her career, that I was just jealous of her success with Mark. That's when I knew she was completely delusional, or maybe just desperate to save herself. She started throwing out all kinds of lies, trying to spin her way out of it, said she was only selling the house because we were having issues, that she was just trying to get some cash to relax and think things through. She claimed the inheritance was just a coincidence, that she wasn't planning anything. But I saw the truth in her eyes, the way she avoided my gaze when I asked about the money. I knew she'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. She'd been selling off our family home piece by piece, secretly, and I was just discovering it now. The betrayal cut deep. I felt like I was drowning. All those years I worked my ass off, long hours, sacrifices, trying to build a future, gone. She'd been secretly cashing out on everything I'd ever cared about. Worse, she was trying to turn me into the villain in her twisted story. She said I was trying to steal from her, that I was the one who'd been controlling her, that I'd plotted to take her away from her career and her life. It was so absurd I almost laughed, but the anger kept boiling up. I knew the real story, and I wasn't going to let her lie her way out of it. I told her I was done listening to her bullshit. I told her I had enough proof to take this to the authorities if I had to. That's when she started crying, really crying, big tears, snot running down her face, trying to make me feel guilty for catching her. She said she was just stressed, that it was all just a mistake, that she loved me and never meant to hurt me. But her words felt hollow. I could see she was just trying to manipulate me, to spin her lies into some kind of victim story. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head. The betrayal, the lies, the fact that she'd been secretly selling off our house and cashing in on my grandfather's inheritance. I felt so stupid for not seeing it earlier. I had trusted her completely, and she'd been planning her escape all along. I started questioning everything, our marriage, my judgment, even myself. How did I not see the signs? Was I so blind that I missed her sneaking around, her secret phone calls, her disappearing acts? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I'd been living in some kind of false reality. I decided I had to act fast. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in financial crimes and marital disputes. I wanted to lock down everything, our accounts, the house, the inheritance. I needed to protect what was left of my life. I also started drafting a plan to confront Emily again, but this time with legal backing, so she couldn't spin her lies anymore. I knew she was good at gaslighting, but I had the evidence now and I was determined to use it. Meanwhile, Emily was losing her temper. She accused me of trying to ruin her career, of trying to steal her money, of being a jealous, insecure husband. She said I was just trying to control her, that I didn't trust her. It was classic gaslighting, trying to turn the tables and make me feel guilty for uncovering her lies. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I saw through her manipulations. I knew she was desperate, cornered, and that her lies were falling apart. She even started spreading rumors, telling friends and family I was trying to take everything from her, that I was some kind of abusive control freak. That's when I realized she was trying to isolate me, to make me look like the bad guy so she could escape unscathed. But I had enough evidence to prove otherwise. I wasn't about to let her get away with this. I knew she'd been planning her escape for months, maybe longer, and I was furious that she'd betrayed me so completely. In that moment, I made a decision. I wouldn't let her destroy what little trust I had left. I'd fight her, legally if I had to get back what was mine. I knew this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about respect, dignity, and facing the fact that the woman I loved had been lying to my face. I realized I had to stand up for myself, no matter how painful it was. I couldn't let her win, not after everything she'd done. I owed it to myself to fight for what was right, my future, my inheritance, my sanity, and I was ready to do just that. The legal process moved faster than I expected once I handed over all the evidence to my lawyer. She, Emily, kept up her act, crying, pleading, claiming innocence, trying to make me feel guilty for what she called destroying her life. But I wasn't buying any of it. I saw her true face now, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd do anything to get what she wanted, even if it meant lying, cheating, and selling off her own family's legacy. My lawyer advised me to file for an immediate injunction to freeze all her accounts and prevent her from selling any more of the house or inheritance. That was the first step. I also started the process to claim ownership of the house and the inheritance, which she'd been secretly liquidating. I knew she'd try to fight it, but I had enough proof to back me up. The receipts, the transfer records, the conversations I secretly recorded when she didn't know I was listening, everything pointed to her betrayal. While all this was unfolding legally, Emily's behavior grew more erratic. She started turning up at the house unannounced, trying to guilt-trip me into dropping the case. She'd cry, scream, call me names, accuse me of ruining her life. She even went as far as to claim I'd been abusive, just so everyone would see her as the victim. I knew she was just trying to manipulate the narrative, to paint herself as the wronged wife, but her act was thin. Everyone who knew us could see through her lies. I had friends and family backing me up, and I made sure they knew the truth. One day, she stormed into the lawyer's office, demanding to see the paperwork, claiming I was trying to steal her future. But the law was clear. I had the proof: bank statements, sale receipts, the transfer logs, and the court granted the injunction within days. That meant she couldn't sell or transfer any more of the house or inheritance until the full case was heard. It was a victory, but I knew it was only the beginning of a long, ugly fight. Meanwhile, I felt a strange mixture of relief and anger. Relief because I finally had some control back, some legal backing to stop her from destroying what was left. Anger because I couldn't believe she'd gone this far. Selling off parts of our home, secretly cashing in on my grandfather's inheritance, lying to everyone around her. She'd become a stranger. It was like I was living with a different person, someone who only cared about herself and her. Greed. I also started to see the full extent of her betrayal. I discovered she'd been secretly opening accounts under fake names, transferring money there, and planning her escape for months. She was trying to hide her assets from the beginning, thinking she could get away with it. But I had the evidence, and I was determined to push through with the case. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done, not just financially but emotionally too. She shattered my trust, and I wasn't going to let her walk away without consequences. Honestly, I felt exhausted, mentally drained from the constant battles, the lies, and the betrayal. But at the same time, I started to feel a strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd been so focused on her, on fixing the marriage, that I'd ignored my own needs. Now I was finally putting myself first. I was rebuilding my life piece by piece and learning to trust my instincts again. I knew it would take time, maybe years, to fully recover from this, but I was committed to that process. Throughout all of this, Emily kept trying to manipulate me, to guilt me into dropping the case, to make me feel like I was the villain. But I refused. I knew I had the truth and I wasn't going to let her rewrite history. I also started reaching out to some close friends, people who knew us well, to tell them what was really going on. I wanted the outside world to see her for who she really was, someone willing to cheat, lie, and betray her own family for money and greed. I didn't want her to get away with it, not just for me, but for anyone who might be in her position someday. The hardest part was the emotional toll. I felt hurt, angry, betrayed, like I'd been punched in the gut so many times I couldn't breathe. But I also felt a strange sense of empowerment. I was finally taking control, fighting for what was right, and starting to see a way out of this nightmare. I knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There'd be more court dates, more lies, more manipulation. But I was ready for it. I'd learned a lot about trust, betrayal, and resilience, lessons I never wanted to learn, but ones I wouldn't forget. At the end of the day, I just want to say this. If you're ever in a situation where you feel like everything's falling apart, remember that you're stronger than you think. Sometimes you have to fight for yourself, even when it feels like the whole world is against you. I'm still in the middle of my fight, but I know one thing for sure. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning of reclaiming what's mine. The court hearings came and went faster than I expected, but they left me feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. Emily's lawyer tried every trick in the book at trying to discredit my evidence, claiming I was a controlling husband, accusing me of trying to sabotage her career. But I had the proof, and the court saw through her lies. The judge granted the injunction, froze her assets, and ordered her to return the money she'd secretly taken from the inheritance and the house. Still, I knew this was just the first round. Emily was furious, and she didn't go quietly. She escalated her manipulations. She started spreading rumors about me, claiming I was abusive, that I'd been controlling and violent. Her friends and family started to doubt me, even though I had all the evidence to prove otherwise. She'd show up at our house unannounced, crying and screaming, trying to guilt me into dropping the case. Her tears and accusations almost worked, almost made me doubt myself. But I held firm. I knew the truth, and I knew I couldn't let her manipulate everyone around us into turning against me. Meanwhile, she secretly tried to hire private investigators to dig up dirt on me, probably hoping to use it against me in court. I caught wind of it through a friend who's an attorney. She had approached a shady investigator to find anything about my past, my finances, even supposed bad behavior. It was classic Emily, desperate, reckless, trying to cover her tracks. I was furious. I knew she'd do anything to save herself, even if it meant destroying my reputation. It was around this time that I realized I couldn't keep living in this chaos. I had to decide whether to fight for the marriage or cut my losses. I felt a deep sense of betrayal, but part of me still hoped she'd come to her senses. Then I remembered the constant lies, the secret sales, the money stolen from my family, inheritance, and the countless nights I'd spent feeling like I was going crazy. I had to be honest with myself. She wasn't the woman I thought she was. She was someone else entirely, selfish, greedy, and manipulative. I made the difficult decision to file for divorce. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. Everything I'd built was crumbling, and I was exhausted from fighting her at every turn. I sat down with my lawyer, drafted the paperwork, and prepared to end this nightmare once and for all. It wasn't just about getting rid of her. It was about reclaiming my life, my dignity, and my future. I wanted to start over, free from her lies and betrayal. The divorce process was emotionally draining. Emily did everything she could to make it ugly. She accused me of all kinds of things, tried to turn our friends against me, and even threatened to ruin me financially if I went through with it. But I had enough evidence now to stand my ground. I knew I had the upper hand legally, and I refused to be manipulated any longer. I wanted to make it clear that I was done accepting her bullshit. I was done being the victim. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding myself. I cut out toxic people, stopped talking to Emily altogether, and started piecing my life back together. I sold the house. Her secret sales had left me with nothing, and moved into a small apartment. I took a hard look at my finances, made a plan to recover what I could, and started putting myself first. It was hard. I felt the pain, the anger, the loss, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. I was finally free from her grip. Looking back, I realize I learned a lot from this nightmare. I learned that trust is fragile, something you have to earn and protect. I learned that people can surprise you in the worst ways, and that sometimes you have to fight for your life and your sanity. I also learned that even in the darkest moments, you can find strength you didn't know you had. I'm not the same person I was before, but I'm better for it. I know now that I deserve honesty, respect, and loyalty, and I won't settle for anything less. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs. Even if it hurts, gather your evidence, protect yourself legally, and don't be afraid to walk away if that's what you need. You're stronger than you think, and you deserve better. This isn't just about revenge or money. It's about reclaiming your life and dignity. I'm still healing, but I'm moving forward. And honestly, that's the best revenge of all. Now that everything is settled, or at least as settled as it's going to get, I've had some time to reflect on what all this has taught me. Honestly, I never thought I'd end up here, fighting to save what was left of my life after someone I loved turned out to be so completely different from what I thought. But I've learned some hard lessons, and I think I'm finally starting to see the bigger picture. First off, trust is fragile. I used to believe that if someone said they loved you, that was enough. Turns out, love isn't just about words, it's about actions. Emily's actions showed me her real priorities: money, power, control, and how she was willing to lie, cheat, and manipulate to get what she wanted. That realization was a punch to the gut, but it also made me stronger. I learned to listen to my gut more, to pay attention to the little signs I ignored before, like her secret phone calls or the way she avoided certain questions. Second, I learned that sometimes you have to fight for yourself, even when it feels impossible. I was in a dark place, feeling betrayed and helpless, but I found strength I didn't know I had. Gathering evidence, confronting her, standing up in court, each step was painful, but it was necessary. I realized that if I didn't fight for what was rightfully mine, no one else would. That's a lesson I'll carry with me forever. Never let anyone take away your dignity without a fight. Third, I found out that revenge isn't about petty payback. It's about reclaiming your life and dignity. I didn't want to destroy her. Well, maybe I did at first, but ultimately, my goal was to stop her from hurting me anymore and to protect what I still had left. The real victory was in taking control back, in making sure she couldn't get away with her lies and manipulations anymore. That sense of empowerment is what helped me move forward. Finally, I've come to appreciate the importance of self-care. After all the chaos, I realized I'd been neglecting myself, my mental health, my emotional well-being, my future. Moving out, cutting ties, and starting over wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I've been working on healing, on forgiving myself for trusting her so blindly, and on rebuilding my confidence. It's a slow process, but I'm getting there. Looking back, I see that this whole ordeal has changed me. I'm more cautious now, more aware of what's real and what's not. But I also feel more resilient. I know I can handle whatever life throws at me because I've already survived one of the worst betrayals imaginable. I've learned that no matter how dark things get, there's always a way out as long as you're willing to fight for it. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, know this: you're not alone. It hurts, it's messy, and sometimes it feels like everything's falling apart. But you will get through it. Trust yourself, gather your evidence, stand up for what's right, and never let anyone take away your peace. Life after betrayal isn't easy, but it's possible. And one day you'll look back and realize that what seemed like the end was really just the beginning of a new, stronger chapter.